Thank you, Tricia. So great to be here among so many friends. We share a long history just down the street, and I know so many of you from being at protests together. And I'm just so grateful for the Unitarians in general. You all show up. You really do, and I'm just so grateful. Some of my dearest colleagues here in San Mateo are some of your UU ministers, and I've just had incredible times, and with some folks right here in this congregation doing justice work together, and I love Tova's page. Let me just say that. So she is one of my favorite people ever, and we work very closely together. She's the program coordinator for the Solidarity cohort, so we are in weekly touch, and she's wonderful, and I will see you at her ordination for sure. So, all right, let's take a deep breath together, even behind those masks. I'm still kind of in the zone from that beautiful track that was played, and I hope you are too. And I hope I get the yay after my sermon. Mary Oliver's poem, "Make of yourself a light," said the Buddha before he died. I think of this every morning as the east begins to tear off its many clouds of darkness. Her beautiful poem relays a story in the sacred text that Buddha, as he lay dying, surrounded by grieving disciples, they begin to wonder aloud, who will be our teacher now? They whispered to him, how will we achieve enlightenment without you? And the Buddha's last words were, be your own light. Find your own light. Make of yourself a light. Yesterday morning, I finished a book called The Light Pirate by Lily Brooks Dalton. It takes place in a dystopian Florida where the ravages of climate change have delivered catastrophe after catastrophe. No recovery efforts can even make a dent anymore. The sea rise has covered the complete state. It's an intense read. It feels like that's what could actually happen 30 years from now. Doesn't feel too far away from a post-apocalyptic world. It's a beautiful book. It's about love and loyalty, survival, loss, adaptation, evolution, with deeply human characters. Its center is Wanda, named after the hurricane that was the beginning of the end. I don't want to give too much away because it is worth your reading for sure. But Wanda, when she is 10, discovers under the most terrifying of circumstances that she has a gift. When she touches the water, it becomes filled with light, a radiant luminescence, light emanating from within her. Otherwise, she is an ordinary girl in an extraordinary time. But it is as if Wanda and the things around her are transformed by her light. Everybody with me so far? In the Lotus Sutra, one of the most venerated Buddhist sutras, the story is told of the Buddha sitting on a mountaintop, Vulture Peak, surrounded by monks, nuns, famous deities, bodhisattvas. Buddha delivers a teaching, a dharma, and then goes into a deep state of meditation. And those present witness him emanating or emitting a ray of light from between his eyes, his third eye, as it were. And that light illuminates all the realms to the east, both in heaven and below. It's this mystical moment. Now what happens then is what happens whenever people get together, a drama unfolds, and the monks start leaving because though I don't understand all the nuances of it, his teaching at that moment began to talk about there is one path, the path to Buddhahood, and that path is available to all. Enlightenment is available to each of us. You know, there's a similar stories in the Christian scriptures. Jesus is on a mountaintop. He doesn't have very many witnesses, just Peter, James, and John, but they experience a mystical moment. The story tells us that he becomes so full of light that his entire being is dazzling, radiant. In fact, the text says his clothes became so white as no human being could bleach them. I had no idea they had Clorox at that time, but that's what it says. The witnesses look up and they see next to him, joined by two of their most revered prophets, Moses and Elijah. Jesus is enveloped in a cloud, and a voice that they all hear says, "This is my child, my beloved." As in this story too, a little drama unfolds. Peter wants to capture the moment, bottle it, contain it, build a tent around it. But you can't capture moments like that. Because I want to suggest today that the light emanating from Buddha and the light emanating from Jesus is that their true nature was revealed, their essence, the essence of humanity, a humanity that we all share. We've seen it. We've captured glimpses of it ourselves when a person has a lot of light in them, right? You could say, think about it. You've heard it or said it. They were glowing. Oh, they were just radiant. This is our animating spirit, our essence, our pure light itself within each one of us. And that's why Buddha's last words would be your own light. Make of yourself a light. And that's why Jesus would say in his most famous teaching, the Sermon on the Mount, you are the light of the world. Don't hide it. Both enlightened teachers drew attention away from themselves and onto us. So I want to ask you to imagine today, with me for a moment, that the dazzling brilliance of Buddha and Jesus must be what the essence of humanity looks like without any defenses, without any barriers, without any labels. It's that light from within that each of you and I have. It is that light, unfiltered, unplugged, undiminished, unquestioned, unashamed. That moment where there is no separation of the inner and outer. Babies have it when they come into the world. Think about it. How many of us love infants? We're so drawn to them because they haven't built up their defenses yet. Right? Anybody with me? They haven't built up any defenses. Just that purity of light begins to shine through. But then we start to protect ourselves, to build walls. Walls to keep out pain, walls to keep out the voices of others. Those voices that can be so judgmental, whether they're familial voices or societal voices, voices of expectation, voices of undue obligation, voices of systemic justice. You know, friends, Jesus and Buddha both lived with these voices too. But no single story, they allowed no single story to hold them. Just like no single story holds you or me. They allowed no single identity to hold them. or to define them. Just like we have the capacity to not let any single identity define or confine us. I mean, think about it. Buddha came from a wealthy family. Jesus came from a poor family, and they both reached enlightenment. No single story is big enough to hold you, and no one identity defines you. You are beloved. You are the light of the world. So don't hide your light. This is the message of these enlightened teachers. Because beyond our stories, our names, our injuries, beyond the systems that grind us down, beyond the disillusionment that so many of us feel with so many things, beyond our own wounds, our own burdens, our own doubts, beyond the committee in our heads. Anybody in here got a committee in their head? Beyond all that, there's an essence. There's a light in you, dazzling. And you've touched it. The moments you have radiated love and compassion without thought of self, that's your essence. That's the light. So maybe it was just this that Buddha and Jesus were revealing. That is our essence without defense, without protection. That's how bright our essence is. There's a story of a temple in Thailand. It's a true story. And for years, people worshipped what they thought was a statue of a clay Buddha. And one day, one of the workers was trying to clean the Buddha. Have you heard this story, some of you? Not recently, I hope. They tried to clean the Buddha, and it got chipped. And beneath those and in between those layers and inches of clay was a Buddha of pure gold. Now, I don't know if you know this, but right across the way on Monte Diablo, where the Pilgrim Baptist Church used to be, there's now a Buddhist temple. Go look in the window. Seriously. So I was there yesterday, I looked in the window. There's a Buddha. I'm sure it's not pure gold, but it looked it from a distance. Like the size to the roof. It's incredible. So this Buddha in Thailand was a Buddha of pure gold. But centuries before, a war had been coming, and they knew about it, so the monks covered the Buddha with clay. And then they had to flee, and they never returned. So no one ever knew the story. You know where I'm going with this, right? Our clay covering. The doubts, the insecurities, the injuries, the stories we create about ourselves, the stories other people create about you, our regrets from the past, our expectations for the future. This is all just clay that covers up the pure gold of light within each one of us. You know what? If we could know that about ourselves and know that about others, there would not be any racism. There would not be homophobia. There would not be transphobia. There would not be ageism. So I'm inviting you to imagine that essence, that emanating light of your own. What defenses might you or I need to let go of? What stories no longer serve you or me? Because I know I can make up some real good stories about myself. And you know what? When I'm not in touch with my higher self, I can make up stories about other people. Or what I'm best at is making up stories about other people and what stories they're making up about me. That I'm an expert at. And you know what that does? It diminishes my light. It diminishes the light that is in them. And it begins to build those layers of clay. So what defenses do you and I need to let go of? What stories need a new chapter or maybe need to be rewritten completely? And who might you call to be your witnesses to your light? Wanda, Jesus, Buddha, you. I'll let Mary Oliver sum it up because she does it best. Still, what I want in my life is to be willing to be dazzled, to cast aside the weight of facts and maybe even to float a little above this difficult world. I want to believe I am looking into the white fire of a great mystery. I want to believe that the imperfections are nothing, that the light is everything, that it is more than the sum of each flawed blossom rising and falling. And I do. And I hope we do too. Yay. Yay.